If you're just joining the stream now, please feel free to say hello in the chat. Hello, hello. Excuse me. How's it going, guys? If you're just joining the stream now, feel free to say hello in the chat. Hey, William, how's it going? Let me know how the quality of the stream is. Hey, Sean, how's it going? Let's see, we've got 5 viewers right now. We'll wait for a few more to trickle in, and then we'll get started. How's it going, Alex? Welcome. While we're waiting, does anybody have any stocks they'd like kind of my quick opinion about? And we'll look at the charts and I'll see what I think. All right, good. Good to know that the quality is good. All right, AXSM. Let's go ahead, look at the chart. So this is kind of exactly what I look for here. You've got, it looks like it's a recent IPO. It's up near all-time highs here, and it's just kind of consolidating after it jumped up a little bit on above average volume. So this is a setup that I would definitely look for. And you've got a couple possible entries here. You had a failed Bollinger Band bounce back here, but I think it's still a constructive pattern. You wouldn't want to see it dip down too much, but once it starts moving up, maybe has another green dot entry, I think this would be a good one to look for. All right, Sean, you've got a lot of recommendations. Okay, let's take a look at a couple more, and then we'll see where we're at in terms of viewership. So I see you like a lot of biopharmas. That's interesting. So Q is also a recent IPO, but it's not above its last green line. So if we were to draw it, it would start around here. So I would want to see kind of a green line breakout, and it kind of met resistance at that green line and never moved through it. How's it going, Kasparov? Noah, how's it going? Yes, InMode's been acting very well the past couple of weeks. It kind of broke its downward trend line here and then has really been jumping up. I think it could kind of be forming the start of a handle here after this kind of cup shape. And then I think its move isn't over. It's such a new stock that is a lot of room for growth, and the estimates, as we'll look for, are pretty insane. Let me see if I can raise the volume. Sorry about that. Let's go in here. Sorry if this is too much. How's that sound? Does that sound any different? Is that better? Let me know, Sean. And while we're checking on that, let's look at JBL. All right, JBL, it was on my watch list a while ago, and it's still got pretty decent fundamentals, I believe, and it's kind of forming, once again, it tried to break out here and then was knocked back down, so it still has yet to make a decisive move. Noah, guys, would that be, do you want even louder? I can do a little bit louder as well. Let me know. This is the first stream I've ever done, so it's gonna take some getting used to. I guess I should get started by kind of saying the plan for today. So I envision this to be about an hour stream. We'll see if we get there. But my plan is to kind of go over my methodology and how I created my fundamental watch list using all these different columns over here. And then we'll actually go through my process and how I build my watch list step by step. So we'll talk charts, we'll talk fundamentals, and put it all together at the end. Okay, so it's good as is. So let's go ahead and get started. So I first had this idea when I found out that on IBD you could kind of make your own lists using different fundamentals that they offer, and you could download their Excel sheets. And I thought this would be a great way to kind of automate the process of looking for stocks with high RS ratings and stuff like that. But with MarketSmith, you can take it a step further because you can make as many columns as you want. I actually have a ton of these columns hidden on the sheet because I only really have the ones that I care about shown right now. And actually, before we get into it, I do want to say, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the chat, and I'll stop what I'm doing and try to address whatever it is you're asking. So feel free to leave comments, interact with me. I love that. But let's continue. So what I have and what I post on my top 30 list is kind of the things that I really look for. So we've got the composite ratings over here and also the other key ratings. So composite rating, EPS rating, RS rating, industry group RS, SMR rating, and accumulation distribution rating. So this is kind of the first thing I look for. And over here is the column that I kind of give different points for these different ratings. So if industry group is an A+, I give, for instance, 5 points in this column. And then based on other stuff that we'll talk about later, I also give points around here. And then all of that gets added up into the total score. So that's kind of how the total score is calculated. And moving on to EPS. Moving on to EPS, obviously the higher the better in terms of growth, but I do like to see it building up and accelerating. So Kasparov has a question: is there any way to export IBD stats into Excel spreadsheets? Are you talking about from the stock screener or from kind of the stock checkup features that they offer? Because I can definitely show you guys how to do the IBD stock screener. While we're waiting for that answer, let's keep on going. So I really like looking at the EPS change last quarter and also the estimates for the current quarter. And you'll notice that I really like above 100% for both of these columns. And I especially like to see big changes from the estimates. Kasparov, I'll go ahead and show how to do it from the IBD stock screener, because that's probably the most dynamic, and you can probably copy what I've done with MarketSmith the best in that. So let's go ahead and go to IBD stock screener. bring up the chat. So if you've never used this stock screener before, it's a free software that they include if you have a regular IBD subscription, and I really recommend it. I think it's very powerful, and it seems like not a lot of people are using it to the fullest ability. And the big thing is that you can create your own scans here to kind of look for specific criteria based on group RS, price, volume, everything that I like to look for. But to actually export it to an Excel file, the only thing you have to do is click this export button up here, and it will automatically download a file. And it looks like I have to do one more thing, but that's how you do it. You just have to accept all the security things that you have to go through, and then you would be able to manipulate it in Excel. So I hope that answered your question, Kasparov, and let's keep on going with the watch list. So that kind of covered what I like to see in terms of EPS. Also, it's really good to see EPS surprise the past quarter. A lot of big moves actually get started by big EPS surprises that take the big banks and mutual funds by surprise. And in terms of sales, again, I want to see the sales supporting the EPS growth. So it's always good to see this above 50%. And again, the higher the better. And a lot of stocks like CRISPR, you'll see insane numbers of over like 2,000%. And that's a sign that a stock could go on a big move. So yeah, that's sales and EPS. And in terms of industry group rank, I want to see it be in the top 40 if possible. You can see that a couple of these stocks are above that. But I really like to focus on stocks that are below 40. And obviously the higher the better. And moving on to return on equity, what I like to see here is kind of a cutoff of 15 to 17%. And if it's way below that, it depends on what the other fundamentals look like. But I do want to see good growth there. And again, the higher the better. You can see InMode kind of ticks all the boxes. It's got a industry group rank of under 40 and a return on equity of over 71%. So I'm just reading Noah's question here. He's asking, at some point, can we go over my process on deciding which stock, what to do with stocks around their earnings date? So what makes you decide to stay and get out? Yeah, of course. Let's go ahead and actually do that right now. So I currently own AMD, and its earnings report date is actually this Tuesday. So I got in on this bar right here, and this is kind of what's key. You want to decide and have a rule based on what your percentage gain is at the moment. So if you have no cushion, if you have maybe a 3% gain, I don't think that's enough to hold through earnings because you never know what's going to happen. It could drop 15%, it could gain 15%, and it's kind of gambling. So I would say just a suggestion that if you don't have a cushion of over 10%, then you might want to just sell for a small gain, most of your position at least. You can always hold kind of a smaller, maybe quarter position and risk it, but that's kind of up to you and up to your rules. And I should have said this at the beginning. All of this is for educational purposes only, and obviously you should do your own due diligence and not just follow my opinions. So that's kind of how I handle earnings. In terms of my AMD position, I plan to sell half on Monday and then hold the rest through earnings. But I do have like a 20% cushion, so I'm able to do that pretty safely. But again, it's all based on what your current gain in the position is. So I hope, Noah, that answers your question. And let's keep on going. So in terms of the IBD list, I don't really check whether it's on the IBD list or not. Obviously, it's a good thing if it is, but it's not like a big criteria that I look for. I'm more focused on the actual fundamental numbers. And the final thing that I look at mainly is the after-tax margins. And I want to see, again, the higher the better, but I want to see around 20% or above. That would be the ideal for me. And really, you can see that InMode kind of just has everything that I look for. It's 99s across the board in terms of the main three ratings. Its earnings are crazy. You've got estimates of up 3,800% for the upcoming quarter. Its sales are up, and it's got an excellent return on equity and really good after-tax margins. And the last column that I include on my top 30, of course, is the earnings due date, because just like Noah suggested, you have to have rules surrounding earnings dates to make sure that you're dealing with your risk management safely. So that is kind of a quick overview of my fundamental sheet and kind of what I look for and the thresholds that I look for while looking at that sheet. So the next step in my process is to actually take the top 400 stocks from this list and copy it into TC2000. So obviously, if you're using TradeView, you could, or another software, Thinkorswim, you can do the exact same thing. So you just copy the top 400. And then I'm gonna rename this watch list, rename watch list, and call it 26. Okay, and I'm gonna clear all the symbols in the list. Let's see, I'm actually scanned right now. I am. So let's clear everything from the list. And then we're gonna paste those 400 names into this watch list. So now we've got 400 pretty good fundamentally ranked stocks. And now it's time to kind of first scan and like narrow down our options, and then go through manually and look for chart patterns that I like to see, cup and handles, flat bases, potential green line breakouts, that type of thing. So the scan that I use, and we'll actually go over each component, is this one right here. So the first criteria is that the close is greater than the 10-week average, 10-week moving average, and the 10-week moving average is greater than the 30-week moving average. And this is basically the yellow band criteria. And I just want to make sure that each of stock that I'm going to invest in is in an overall uptrend. And the second criteria that I like to see is that the cost has to be over 12. And this was a suggestion of Mark Minervini when I went to one of his lectures. He basically said that anything under 12 isn't really worth looking at. And there's a ring of truth to this, because stocks are more expensive for a reason. And if it's under 12, you can manipulate it more. Mutual funds aren't able to take up large positions because of the low cost. So essentially, it's not really worth your time if you're kind of trying to ride in the wake of these big mutual funds institutions. So that's kind of my reasoning behind this condition here. And the third condition is that the 10-4 stochastic has to be less than 80. And the reason I do this is because one of the biggest mistakes I did at the beginning of my trading was investing in extended stocks. So if they're too far from the base or they've moved up too quickly, I gauge them to be extended. And this is my criteria that prevents me from entering stocks that are extended. And the last one is the C over C250, which means the close over the close 250 days ago is greater than 1.5. So basically in the last year, it's gained at least 50%. And this is just to make sure that the stocks that I'm looking at are moving. They're actually doing something. And 50% is actually kind of a low criteria. Obviously, the larger, the better. And in fact, like ARWR up 400%, that more than meets the criteria that I look for. But 50% is kind of the low bar that I set for that. So once we do that, we press scan. And you can see usually out of those 400 names, you're left with about 76 to go through manually. So I find that that really saves some time. And Alex says that only above 20 works for me. That's even better, honestly, because that's being even more strict with the price condition. It's all personal preference, and I find that 12 is good enough for me. I will prefer to invest in a stock that's around 100 than one that's around 18. Also because you can, there's more point moves rather than percentages. So now what I do is I sort by the 10-4 stochastic. I want to start with the most oversold and work my way up from there. And I guess it's a good time to kind of talk about my column lists here quickly. Let me get a drink of water real quick. Let me know if you've got any questions so far. Okay. So this is my overall column list. I've got the symbol, the next earnings date, and I have this all the way to the left because obviously earnings season is coming up now, and I want to make sure that with any stock that I'm looking at, I know when that earnings date is. And then I've got the weekly change, which is the change from the open of the previous week to the current close. Then we have the price, percent change, volume buzz, which is a great metric to have. If your service offers it, definitely put that on your watch list because that tells you what the volume is at a breakout, and it's so important. Then I have the 10-4 stochastic, the close over the minimum of the last year, and then I've got a special column that I coded that will actually take a look at the PCF code. And basically what it is it takes the high out of the last 10 days and the low out of the last 10 days and then calculates the percent change between them. So it kind of gives the Darvas box range here, and I want this to be as tight as possible. Okay, so Kasparov asks what the stochastic indicator is. So that's a very good question. Let's go ahead and look at the stochastic itself. So right down here is the 10-4 stochastic, which is what I use just because that's how I was taught in Dr. Wish's class. That's what he uses on a day-to-day basis. And I don't view the 80-20 mark as oversold or overbought, but I do consider over 80 to be extended. And the lower the crossover is down here of the shorter term over the blue, the better, because the more oversold the stock is at that time. So if you don't know what stochastic is, it's basically it's the range out of the last end period, and it calculates where the current price is in that range. So if it's on the higher end, it's basically extended, and if it's on the lower end, then it might be move up since it's oversold. And basically it's a momentum indicator, and we use a signal line of the blue, which is a moving average of the 10-4 stochastic, to kind of gauge when that momentum is shifting from oversold up towards overbought. So I hope that answered your question. That wasn't the best explanation, but feel free to leave another question if that wasn't entirely clear. For anything that you're not sure of, I would really suggest you go to Investopedia. It's a great resource. Just type in whatever you're looking for, whatever indicator, and kind of and see what they have to say. Usually they have fantastic explanations. That's definitely where I went when I was more learning this stuff for the first time. So going back to the column list, we went over the price change. I want to see this to be over 2 and under 10. That would be kind of my ideal range. And that's kind of finding those tight constrictions that I like right near all-time highs. So next I've got the GMMA daily. This is just an indicator of whether we're in a red, white, blue pattern on the daily chart or not. And similarly for the weekly column, we've got check marks if they're in a weekly red, white, blue pattern. And finally, the last column that I don't really use that much is relative strength versus SPY is a 100-day high. So this is interesting, especially with a down day on Friday. And let's actually sort by this and see what we get. So all these stocks here had a daily, let's see, you had a relative strength new high, 100 bar high within the last 3 days. So in a down market, this would be a great scan to have because it kind of tells you what is working and what doesn't really care that the market is down, but is still pushing upwards. So that's my column list. And again, as I said, I sort by the 10-4 stochastic and move my way upward. So before we move on, does anybody have any questions about what I just went over? All right, I'll take that as a no. So obviously now I just kind of go through, I go to my clean chart and I just kind of press spacebar and kind of go through the charts and look to find stocks that kind of meet my consolidation near all-time high template, or are potentially going to break through resistance in the next coming week. So let's make this a little bit, there we go. So I kind of want to find one. So here I would just set a quick resistance line here at the top here because it never broke through that level. Coop is a good stock to have. You can see it just broke out of its kind of last sideways consolidation here, and maybe it's about to meet its 30-day moving average once again. So this is a good example. This was almost on my watch list this past week, but it's nice and flat, near all-time highs, a pretty strong fundamental company. I don't like how it acted on this Friday. I would like to see an update on a day where the index has fell 1%, but it's still worth looking at. So I would flag this stock because it kind of meets what I'm looking for, and then keep on going down the list. TTD was on my watch list from this past week. You can see how it tried to break out here, but didn't quite make it, and then just had a bunch of down days. So this won't be on my watch list, but it's just always good to have that resistance level in there for the future. All right, TYL, I like the look of this chart. It did have a potential breakout here, but never quite made it. So this is one that I'm going to highlight, and we'll see if we're going to take it off later. So overall, I look at the charts first, and then I circle back once I have 30-some stocks and check each of their fundamentals to see whether they have good EPS change, sales change, return on equity, all that different stuff. So usually flag that one. So you can see how cash is consolidating right under its green line. This is one I'm actually going to flag because I remember it has pretty good fundamentals. If you just go to the sheet here, it's in the top 30, I believe. Yep, it's number 18. So good fundamental stock. It's near green line. It's consolidating nicely. It has some big up bars recently. Definitely something that I would like to see. Dexcom, good stock. This one is kind of similar to AXSM. You've got consolidation. Actually, it's not near all-time highs, but a nice consolidation under this line of resistance here. So I'm gonna mark this here. Let's go back down. And if you kind of know what you're looking for, you can kind of move a lot faster through this. So this is an interesting stock here, Pan America. So the past couple days, it's been acting really well, and this past Friday, it actually had a really nice day with a overall down market. And you can see the Bollinger Band bounce here, which would have been an excellent entry, and also a bounce off the green line. So I think this will definitely be going on my watch list. And you can see it was actually up 4% on Friday. So definitely a stock to watch. Yeah. See, this type of stock, it's kind of weird. I'm not quite sure why this is such a tight consolidation. You can see the price change the past 10 days is 4.23. That's kind of weird what's going on there. JBL. Yeah, I'll probably put this on my watch list. So Alex asks, what kind of time period am I looking for that crossover? So for that, I'm mostly looking on daily charts here. I don't really go smaller than that. I don't really look at the hourly chart unless I'm looking at the volume on the breakout. However, it is still valid on a weekly chart. As you can see a big change of momentum with PFGC on this bar here on 11:15. And since then, it's been doing really well, up 13%. So I would say for the crossover indicator, which is the green dot, either a daily or weekly chart. So Chipotle, it looks like it's recovered really well from that big dip it had, and it almost has a cup here. It's a little bit V-shaped, but it's still advancing well since that cup right here. So this is an interesting stock to watch, and I'll put a resistance line right here. PCTY has been doing really well, and it's one of the top fundamental stocks. It broke out really nicely from the pattern that I like to see here, where a consolidation right near all-time highs. And since then, let's see what this percent change here was. Yeah, up 16%, and it seems like it's ready to form another flat base. Let me know, guys. Alex just typed in here, how delayed is this stream? I'm not actually quite sure. So just let me know kind of how long it takes for me to react to a new question. I'm sorry if it's like 5 seconds or something. I'll see if I can change that in future streams. I didn't realize Lulu was acting so well. This was a good stock in the beginning of 2019, but it seems like it's really just doing really well even now. So this will probably be on my watch list for this week. So AMATs, I really didn't like how it acted on this past Friday. You had the above average selling here and the big drop 3% kind of through the base it was forming. So I'm actually going to unflag that and we'll keep on going. PRNB, yeah, we'll keep that. Generac had a nice breakout. So this is actually a good thing to talk about. So how do you deal with breakouts like this? I think it definitely is riskier to definitely just put in a buy order on this next day, especially with the overall market kind of acting a little strangely now with the coronavirus. But I would watch this carefully, and if it kind of consolidates nicely and then starts moving up, that's when I would try to buy a breakout like right here. I think it's a little extended from the base now, and you don't want to just jump in because it's going up. This is interesting. Teradyne must have just reported earnings because you see a big gap up day, maybe the day before earnings were going to release, and then a big down day on this past Friday. So I think it is a pretty good fundamental stock. I think it was on my top 30. Let's see. Yep, there it is. Let's see. So they reported 40%, which is pretty good. Interesting. So Alex, I plan to make my usual weekly watch list video as usual, and I will be posting my list on Twitter as I usually do. So CZZ, I've been watching this for a bit. It's still just kind of going under this line right here. So I'll actually, what have I done? There we go. Let's highlight that. Car march just been going sideways. Oh yes, I will make the stream public. There we go. And it should be archived on my channel in the future, so you should be able to go back and kind of follow my process even if you aren't watching this live. Cabo could be one to watch. It showed good relative strength on this past Friday. If you're looking kind of for a more long-term investment into Microsoft, these points right here where it just dips down for a little bit in the overall uptrend, that could be just a good point to buy. You can see it did this right here, and I think this is like a 15% gain here. So Microsoft, very good company, worth a long-term investment in, definitely. It's interesting, especially for stocks like SPGI here. It stopped right at this 300 level, kind of an emotional level for investors. Yeah, kind of an emotional level for investors. If stock reaches that 300 level, it's a big deal. You see that with Tesla recently with 500. Yeah, Kasparov, definitely agree with that. Pullbacks to key moving averages with the overall uptrend. That's why I like to see that yellow band pattern. You see a lot of pullbacks to the 50-day or the 10-week moving average, and then just keeps on going. All right, I think we're pretty much at the end with AMD and AXE. This is too tight for me. I think that looks a little strange. Maybe it was acquired or something. But now that I've flagged all of those, we'll go through and sort by that. And then I would copy and paste all these different stocks. So right click, copy, and create a new watch list called Watchlist 126. Let's actually open that up. Okay, so now that my process is to go through the fundamentals of all these stocks that I found by going through the charts, and I'll look for those things that I talked about. The EPS, I want to see that over 40%, ideally. And if the fundamentals just aren't that good enough, I'll unflag it, get it rid from the watch list, and keep moving on. So let's go through each of these stocks and see how they fare with okay, so Bill Scott asked, do my horizontal trend lines have alerts as defaults? I do not set them by default. If they're actually on my watch list, I will right click on it, set alert, and I'll say crossing above resistance line, and just do that. Okay. So first, I know PASS has pretty good fundamentals. You don't really have EPS change this past quarter, but you see estimates up in a big way this next quarter. So PASS is good. Let's go to IESC. And I do want to make a kind of Python program to automate this. I just save this watch list to an Excel file, run the Python script, and it would output all the fundamentals organized by my watch list for me, so I can just quickly switch in and out of stocks. But right now I still have to do this manually. So IESC is at the bottom of the 400 range, 388. It had okay EPS change. Let's actually lock the top row here. So view, freeze top row. And let's find IESC once more. So now you can see what the labels are for the column. So no real sales change either. The industry group isn't under 40, and the row is pretty much where I like it at the bare minimum at 16.5. So not the best fundamentals, so we'll actually take that off my watch list and just unflag it. TDD, I've already checked it from last week. I'm just looking for this kind of cup and handle pattern here and a break through the green line. So we'll keep that. PFGC as well, I've already checked the fundamentals, so I don't need to. CCZ, let's go ahead and search for that. There we go. So it's number 163. And it's got big EPS change the past quarter. So that always catches my eye. If it's over 100%, that shows you something about the company, and they could be really improving their methods, and they've got a new product that's really selling well, that type of thing. However, you don't have that much sales growth going along with it. So you would like to see, if the earnings are increasing that much, you want to see sales increasing that much as well. Return on equity is also not that great, and the industry group isn't that great. But we will keep it on the list for now. TYL, let's go ahead and search that up. And you can see pretty good IBD ratings, not that much in terms of EPS growth or sales growth, not the best industry group or return on equity. So this is going to get kicked off the list. Dexcom, I already know it's got it's number 11th. Yeah, Zihozu, I think this should just be saved on my channel, so you'll be able to watch the entire thing through. I kind of went through how I created this list. I showed you how to export something similar from the IBD stock screener, and then you can kind of simulate this yourself. But this is using data from MarketSmith. I download that into an Excel sheet, and then I have a bunch of formulas over here that look for certain thresholds to be met. So Dexcom, very good company. Don't really have to check the earnings there. Cash as well. And Cirrus, let's see. So it's number 143. Good earnings this past quarter. The estimates are up 29%, so pretty good. And decent fundamentals overall, so we'll keep that. And finally, PRNB, number 298, and not that great fundamentals. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much is my process. Does anybody have any other questions that they'd like me to cover in this webinar? We're kind of near the 1 hour mark, so I'd like to be wrapping up soon, but if anybody has some last minute stocks they want me to check out, I'd be happy to do that. $16, pretty good for a first stream. All right, ARD wants to look at Sedge. We can definitely do that. So this was on my list a couple weeks ago when it had this nice cup and handle pattern here. I do think it's extended at the moment. It's kind of above this flat base that was forming here. I like the relative strength that it showed this past week. It was just up all 5 days, but it was knocked down a little bit by the overall market here. So the fundamentals, you can't really ask for anything better. It's always in the top 15 usually. It's actually not right now, which is interesting. But overall, good company, good chart. All right, Paycom. Once again, this is most likely extended. Let's look at the stochastic. Yeah, it's up at 94 level here. For me, that's too extended to buy. Ideally, you'd be buying down here with the green dot entry right here. But it all depends on your rules and if you're willing to do that. Thanks, Bill, for those nice words. That's nice of you to say. Yeah, Kasparov, I definitely agree. Good fundamentals, but it's a little bit extended at this point. That's my overall takeaway. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap up the stream here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys found this useful. Obviously, I'll be improving week in and week out. But thanks so much for joining the first stream. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you guys in future streams. Take care.